I'm the head of the Research Commons, and me and my colleague Klaus Loma are largely responsible for providing support in Mendeley and referencing in general to students and staff at the university. With me is my colleague Ingrid van der Westhuizen. She'll keep an eye on the chats and she will let me know if there's any pertinent questions that require answering. Other than that, I'll likely work through the session and I will pause every now and then for questions. And yes, if I go too fast or if I tend to be a scatterbrain sometimes and I jump around a bit, if that starts affecting your understanding of what I'm doing, please let me know and I will try and concentrate a bit harder. But because of that, I also ask please keep your questions to the chat and don't unmute yourself to ask a question, especially while I'm busy, as it can affect a presenter's train of thought. Right, so getting started. Today we're discussing Mendeley for reference management. And yes, as mentioned, I'm Kirchner van Deventer, and my email address there is kvd@sun.ac.za. And you're more than welcome to contact me afterwards if you have any further questions. And if you need some individual training or support, we can do that as well. I'm just going to ask again that everybody just turn off their cameras so that we can just focus or at least save on bandwidth as necessary. Right, so I'm starting with a bit of PowerPoint, but the bulk of my presentation will be a practical session and will focus on the using Mendeley in a practical context. So what is Mendeley? Mendeley is a reference management tool, and it is specifically the one that is supported by Stellenbosch University. It allows you to organize and search your references library. It really is a place where you can store all the sources that you intend to use for your research. It allows you to organize it and categorize it and just make it a lot easier to navigate and navigate your literature, and to also then ultimately use it to cite within Word and to generate a reference list, which makes the process a lot more simplified. But you can also attach PDF articles or a chapter from a book to your reference, and that document you can annotate as well. And then, yes, as I just mentioned, it allows you to cite as you write. So getting started, I sent out an email a bit earlier. Sorry that it was on such short notice, but we're going to go through these steps anyway now for anybody who might not have been able to do so as yet. Please go to www.mendeley.com, and there will be some instructions on how to create an account where you can enter your email address and continue. Very importantly, if you are going to use your Stellenbosch University email, your Outlook email, don't use the same password that you use for Outlook or for Sunlearn or any other university-based application. It's a known issue with Mendeley that sometimes there's a conflicting issue with the passwords then. So rather create or use a different password than the one that you use for the university applications. Right, so here's the instructions, but I'm just going to go to a practical example now. I'm just going to escape this, if it allows me. Right, so we said go to www.mendeley.com. My computer is a bit slow today, and it is giving me a bit of trouble with various Windows updates that needed to run. Um, so please just bear with me. Right, so this is the window that you will get when you go to Mendeley. As you can see, you can even search for articles using Mendeley. But as I instructed now, you can, if you already have an account with Elsevier, or if you create an account earlier, you can just sign in, or you can go to create an account and just follow the steps from there. The download button on the right hand here, and let me zoom in a bit. Now it's already gone, but that is where you will be able to download the desktop application. Right, but once you've created your account, it will give you, you'll be able to sign in. Yes, as I said, my computer is not being ideal today. And from here, if you haven't downloaded Mendeley yet, you will be able to download it. But this is also the online platform where you can, which you can also use to manage your references. Right, going back to the slideshow. Now, you might also, if you click on the desktop button, you're going to get these different versions. So you're going to see there's a Mendeley download, Mendeley desktop for Windows, but you'll see there's a new Mendeley reference manager is available as well. At this point, what I can say about the new reference manager is it is still a beta software. It's not working ideally just yet, and a lot of people are a bit critical of it. At the end of the session, I'll give you a short overview of how it works. The one crucial benefit to the new reference manager software is that it allows you to work with documents online. So if you work on Word online, then you can use it. Unfortunately, Mendeley Desktop is not integrated for that, and it likely never will, because at this stage they are in the process of moving complete support over to the reference manager. But right now it's still not ideal, and that is why the focus of this session will still be on Mendeley Desktop. So then, yeah, you download it either for Windows or for the Mac operating system, or for Linux, depending on what you have, and just follow the prompts. I had a student email me shortly before the session saying that she had difficulties downloading Mendeley Desktop. And can I get an indication? Is there anybody else that had trouble downloading it? All right, thank you, Mr. McCann. Doesn't seem like that, but yes, obviously, if you have issues with downloading it or installing it, please feel free to contact me afterwards, and we can try and figure out what's going on. Right. And once you've successfully installed Mendeley, you're going to get prompted to sign in. And yes, you'll use the email and the password that you registered on the Mendeley website to sign in. And this is where the problem often occurs about if you use the same password that you use for your university account. And hopefully that won't be the issue now that you've been warned. All right. So now I'm going to jump over to the Mendeley application itself. I've already opened it, and this is what it looks like. Unfortunately, I cannot zoom in on Mendeley to give you a better image. So if you're on a laptop or so and it's not clearly visible, I do apologize for that, but it's not a feature that Mendeley has that allows you to do that. So just to give you an overview of what the software or the desktop application looks like and how it works. On the top left here is your library. All documents refers to every single document that's been imported into your library so far. It gives you the date when it's been imported, and it gives additional information the moment you click on one of the sources. Right. So at the top, you'll see here to the right, additional information on this specific reference is being presented. Now you're going to see this little notification saying these details need reviewing. You can mark them as correct or search the Mendeley catalog. Now, what happens is if you click on search, it's going to search the catalog for a more complete source. And then what happens is it will fill in the additional information. So for instance, and important to note is that initially the journal itself was listed as written in sentence case, meaning that Indian was started with a capital I, but the rest of the journal or the title only used lowercase spelling. But in most instances of referencing, the journal title must use title case, where, yes, all the important words will appear will start with capital letters. Now, the other thing to take note of is here it gives the type as generic, but this is very clearly a journal. So, and this is where you will change it to journal, because if it's a generic, if it's set as a generic reference, the way it's going to appear in your Word document later is going to be affected by the type that you have selected. So if it's a journal, be sure that it is set as a journal. Same with a book, or if it's a chapter in a book, make sure that you have it here. So a chapter in a book is a book section in this instance. And then you've got the title itself of the article. And the title of an article must be sentence case as the general rule. So starts with a capital E, but except for people's names or place names, everything else must be written in lowercase. You've got your author. Now, an important thing, especially now that you're getting started with, is be consistent in how you decide to enter authors' names. So if you decide you want to write out their full names, like here, where it is Sanjay Singh, and you can see it starts with the surname and then it goes to the full name. Be sure to do that throughout. Because if, for instance, there is another article written by the same Sanjay Singh, but you put his name there as S full stop Singh, then Mendeley might detect that person as a different author to this one. So just be consistent throughout. So my advice is to rather just put in the initials. So here, for instance, is an example of that. So here we just have the initials. Always give all the initials, not just the first initial. I have had instances where students thought they just had to give the first initial, but you must always give, if it's G, J, W, as is the example here, make sure that you include all of them. Right. So And with all these sources, once you are satisfied with your results, let me quickly find the Sing reference again. And what I'm doing is I'm just typing in the top search bar here. This is where you can quickly find a source if you can't find it in your list. And just type in Sing and right. So here it is back again. So it's filtered it to show me just the results written by this author. Now, additional information that was loaded that wasn't there prior was, for instance, the digital object identifier. It's this little link here, and that is a very important link, especially for journal articles these days. Harvard, APA, and most referencing styles nowadays require you to include the DOI, specifically with journal articles. It's like a permanent link, which makes it very, very easy to access that source later on. But once you are satisfied that all the information is correct, then you can just say details are correct, and that little yellow bar will go away. Now, to clear the search, you just type on clear there. And back to the library. The other aspects that I want to show you here is the different folders that are here. The folders make it really great to be able to organize your sources. So you could say, for instance, create a chapter 1 source folder, and then all the articles that would be relevant to chapter 1, or all the sources that will be relevant to chapter 1, you can put in there. You've got a favorite tab, you've got a recently read, which is quite useful as well. Recently added, which is very useful if your list especially starts getting very big. Mine, for instance, is enormous. And at present, I need to point out that I'm not using it for my personal research. I will likely start using it again when I continue with my studies. But at this point, it is more for demonstrative purposes. And that is why it is very messy. Some sources does have a PDF article, others don't. So there's a massive, there's a whole range of faulty sources in this list. Now, the next great thing that you can do with Mendeley is that you can create groups. It's important to note that the groups are limited to 6. You can only create up to 6 groups. But by creating a group, I'm just going to delete one. By creating a group, you can collaborate with other authors if you are working together on an article or you're working together on research. So here I am creating a private group, just calling it Mendeley Training. And I can, for instance, then invite colleagues to join. For now, I'm just going to skip it. But what happens then is whenever let's say I found a couple of relevant articles and I select them. If I want to select multiple sources that do not appear next to each other, I can just use, I will click select one, and then I will hold in the control button. And that way I can select whichever references I want. And then I can just tag them and I can drag them. But for some other reason, it doesn't always immediately want to respond. It can be because the computer is slow. Or it could just be that, no, Mendeley is not responding at the moment. This is not Mendeley's fault. This is my computer's fault. There we go. All right, now that I try to drag it, that little icon appears, and I can drag it to the Mendeley training folder. Let's see if it has. Aha, it did not. So that is something that I have noticed does happen. Don't assume that once you've dragged and dropped it, that it is absolutely there. Sometimes you need to do it more than once just to make absolutely sure that it is there. But now, as you can see, there are duplicates. Now, this is also something that is going to happen a lot. You are going to get duplicate references because sometimes you'll forget that you already imported a source into your library. So there is a way to change that. And that is if you go here at the top left where File, Edit, View, Tools, and Help is, and you go to Tools and you say check for duplicates. And here you'll see it found 5 duplicates in Mendeley training. And you can then, you'll see there's no conflicting fields because these are exact duplicates. But in a lot of instances, there might be some smaller issues. Right. And then once you've merged everything, only the originals will remain. But if we, for instance, take the same step in my greater in this folder, and I say check for duplicates, now it's taking a bit longer, and it is showing quite a couple of different ones. And then, again, you can just confirm the merge. Right. So that, in a nutshell, is the different features that we have here. You can even have a place where you can store your own publications, unsorted. Everything will be in the unsorted folder until you've put them into a separate folder. And then here at the bottom is the filter feature. Now, the filter feature is quite nice because in the one sense, it gives you an indication. This is where you'll be able to pick up if you have the same author, but Mendeley is recognizing that author as 2 separate authors. And as I mentioned, it's usually because in the one source, the name is spelled out, and then in the other source, only the initials are used. Here is an example. So here we have LE bus, but here we have a similar one, LE bus, that looks like it's the same person, could be the same person. So this is just a good way to clarify that and make sure that you, yes, that Mendeley recognizes the correct author for each section. But there are other features that you can do. You can filter it by author keywords, by publications, or by tags. And the tags are very handy. To explain how they would work, I created a chapter 1 folder here now, and now I want to populate that folder. So let's say this one, I'm going to tag it with chapter 1. And let's take this one, and I'm going to add the tag there as well. Oh, yes, just to point out, if I went too fast to that, the tag will always appear under the abstract. Now, if I go to tags, here are the different tags that I've already created. And I say filter by chapter 1, and there it shows the articles or the sources that I have now tagged with that chapter 1 feature. So this is also a great way to, if you're in a hurry and you don't want to sort everything into a folder now, but you want to create some kind of tag, to say, okay, this is going to be relevant for my literature review or for my research methodology or for the sampling section, then that is where the tags become very, very handy. Right, so I'm going to clear that search. This is actually something that took me quite a while to realize, is Sometimes if you do the search, you tend to forget that the filter is applied. So I'm just going to type in Stellenbosch. And I don't know, it might just be me, but sometimes I just completely forget that that filter is there. And if I continue working, especially assuming that if I switch to another folder, as I'm doing now, I tend to forget that I had that filter applied. So that filter remains applied until you press on clear. So just keep that in mind as well. All right, so that's in a nutshell how this works. I'm not going to go to the notes and the contents just yet, because I would rather do that once we've imported a reference. Now, I'm just going to show you some additional features here. The first one is this add button. So there are various ways to add a reference to Mendeley. Excuse me. You can add a file. Usually it will be an RIS file, or another type of a bib file that's available. You can even add a folder. And oh yes, other files that you can add. You can even add existing PDFs of articles that you have. Some of them already have embedded metadata that will then automatically fill in the reference on your behalf. But do that with a pinch of salt, because it's very few and far in between that the metadata will always be perfectly correct. And this is something I'm going to say now, and I'm going to repeat it a couple of times. Don't just assume that the moment you've imported a reference into Mendeley that it's fine and you can just leave it like that and you can go on and cite it in your reference list at the end of your study. Always review the entries that you make. For instance, here we've got this article saying mapping groundwater. So the title looks good, author looks good, but there's no journal, there's a year, but there's no volume, there's no issue, there's no pages. And that is the type of, you're often going to get these type of sources imported into Mendeley. And you'll then, what will happen is you'll have to go and search for that additional information. So, and the best way to make sure that you do that is that the moment you import a source, you usually import it from the database where you actually got that source. You should be able to find the additional information you require there. Yes. There's also what we call a watch folder. Now, this is a great place where you can, if you've created a watch folder, let's do that now. I think I might actually have an existing one. Let's just see. But for instance, you can even make it my documents. You can say my entire documents, watch it. But that's going to be a bit crazy because then it's going to put everything, all my documents, even that's not related to academia in. Let's see what should work. Nah, I'll get back to this when we have a PDF or two to work with. But the watch folder, just so that you know what it does, is it's a folder that Mendeley constantly monitors. And the moment you go and save PDFs or even RIS files or anything in there, then Mendeley will automatically import those files into your library. Right, and then the last option is to enter add an entry manually. And this is what it will look like if you click on it. We can enlarge it a little bit. So basically, this often happens if you have a book at home or so that you can't find any information online with. That's and you only and you just want to enter it because you're going to use it now. You can select the book. We can say first steps in research by Maria Carr. Let's make it the 2016 edition. Pages aren't necessary because it's a book, but if it's a book section, it might be necessary. Place of publication is Pretoria. The edition is the second edition. Now take note here where I'm writing second, because I'm going to use this citation later when we switch to Word. I'm just writing second. I'm not writing ed or edition or anything like that. And the publisher is Van Skyke. So just so you know, for a book, a hard copy book, this is all the only information you need. Just because these fields are here, they don't need to be filled. That's just for your own personal preference. If you do want to add the abstract, but a book doesn't have an abstract, but it might have a blurb at the back. But it's not as essential. This is the only information that you will need if you're going to enter anything book related. And then we can say save, and there's the reference now. Right. Now at the edit section, there's a couple of options. They're basic, the same as with any other software. Then view. Here is now, for instance, now I've got the library as a table, but you can also view library as citations. And this is a good way of getting an idea of how the library, how your references are going to look. I prefer it as the table because it's a much better way to categorize and sort your sources according to the year of publication or the title or the author, for instance. Next is the citation style. So this is where you will select the style that you are using. Now, Stellenbosch University does have a Harvard style, but at this stage, it is a bit broken. And once Research Week is over, I will be able to make that my next project to fix it and get a workable one available. But at this stage, we recommend that students use either University of Cape Town's Harvard or another accepted Harvard styles if you have available. If you're using APA, you can use the APA as it is here. So just bear in mind that there's a 7th edition out now, which is quite different to 6th edition. One example is with the 7th edition, it is acceptable to use et al. From the first instance where you have a citation with more than 3 authors. In the 6th edition, the first time that you cited an article or a publication with more than 3 authors, you had to write out every single author's name. But I will show that in a practical example as well. Now, to get these additional styles, you will go here and you'll click on More Styles. And it will eventually load. And there will be a couple here that's already installed on the system, but they don't necessarily appear on that list. Keep in mind that there are updates available. So remember to use updates. To update a style, all you have to do is right click on it and then just say update style. And now just quickly to show what happens if I'm going to remove the Stellenbosch University one, I'm going to uninstall it. And also the University of Cape Town one. So to get more styles, you click on Get More Styles. And here you can just type in, for instance, Stellenbosch, and you'll see it there. You select it and you click on Install. Same with Cape Town. All right. Now the next step is under tools. We've got a couple of extra features. Oh, I made an error earlier. When I was referring to the Mendeley Reference Manager that's integrated with Word Online, it's not the Reference Manager, it is Mendeley Site, which is a different software, but I will, as I mentioned, I will show you that later on as well. Right, so the first thing you want to do, even before you start collecting sources, is you want to install the web importer. So let's click, I'm going to click that, and hopefully it will load. There we go. It will take you to this site. Now, depending on whether you're on Chrome or Firefox, it will automatically give you the right add-on web page. And while that is, every time I want to do that, never mind. And then, yeah, you've got this, and you can say, you can just say add to Firefox. You're going to get this little drop down where you have to give permission. You can just give permission there. And then here at the top right, this little icon will appear. So now, because I uninstalled it earlier, I will need to sign in again. So let me just get that out of the way. Let's just say OK. Or I'll get back to that because it's not responding immediately right now. The next one that you want to install is the MS Word plugin. Now, in order to install that, you have to be certain that you have that both Outlook and Word is closed. And you say install MS Word plugin. Now, as far as I can tell, neither of those programs are currently running, but let's see. I'm going to ask Mendeley to try and close it. And while it's doing that, let's go back. There we go. Now it's loading. And just sign in quickly. All right, because my details are saved, it just automatically logged me in. You'll likely have to fill in your password the first time you want to sign in. Okay. All right, now once it's installed, you're going to get this little notification, citation plugin for Microsoft Word installed. Excuse me just one second. Okay. Right, so now that that's all in place, let's start looking for sources to to load into Mendeley. The first place that I'm going to start with is the library's own Sun Search platform. Now, Sun Search is a platform, it's like a Google for all the databases and public publishers that the library is subscribed to. So let's see what would be an interesting topic. And I purposefully select a random topic every time because I like running into problem instances. Sometimes you'll find a source that's not necessarily does not necessarily work from the get-go. And yeah, as a librarian, that's the way I like to teach people as well, because showing them things, only showing people things that I know will work, isn't always ideal. You sometimes do want to run into problems so that they can know what kind of troubleshooting issues there might be going forward. Right, so let's say, let's try the Spanish flu in South Africa. Right, and now we've got our results here. Here to the left, those of you who attended yesterday's literature search strategies session will be a bit more familiar with this, but this is a nice little filter where you can say you're looking specifically for articles or whatever you're looking for. So I'm going to go for this first one. It's a journal article, and I'm going to click on the title. And first off, I am going to just click on this view full text because I do want to download the PDF as well, but that's just something that's going to happen. Let's see, Gale Academic 1 file, subinit, available from 2009. Let's use this one. Okay, now one thing that's important to note, you'll see there is this under the send to option, there is a Mendeley link. But if you click on it, hey, it might just work this time. All right, so for the longest time, for the past year so far, that link did not work, but it seems to have been fixed now. So yes, that's a very quick way to export a source then. So now just to double check that it did export it to my Mendeley, I'm going to click on synchronize. And just waiting, and then I'm going to click on edit to get the most recent one. 232, and here we have it. In a time of plague, memories of the Spanish flu. Right, so that actually works now, but it is prone to errors. So you should not just depend on that. You can try that, but if that doesn't work, go to the option right to the left, RIS. It's not really important to know what RIS stands for, but it is a file type that you will find on any database as a possible export option. And then what happens if you click on RIS is you're going to get this little drop down and you're going to say download. And depending on how your browser is set, it's either going to automatically download the file and it's going to lie in your downloads folder, or it is going to give you this option to open with. And so if you have this option, you can select other here. And then you just need to scroll down until you find Mendeley. You select Mendeley and you say, okay. You can even say, do this automatically for files like this from now on. Right, and it should now have been added as well. It probably, because it's already, this one's already been added, it is likely that it will not add a duplicate version of that source. Right. Now the other option, if it did not, if you're not set to open it automatically with, and you saved it to, you saved it in your downloads file. Let me just find a different source. Let's use this one. Click on RIS, download, save file. Let me just go to downloads. Primo RIS export. It is advisable that when you do save it like this, that maybe select the title as to use the title as a way to make sure that you have the right RIS file. Memories of the Spanish flu. Right, and then once you've downloaded it, there are two ways to add it. Either you go to add files here, and go to downloads. And because mine is set to date modified, it's right here at the top, but it will always have a little image like that looking, yeah, RIS formatted file. And then you can just select it and you can say open, and it will appear here at the top as well. And there you have the additional information as well. The other option is to just drag and drop it into Mendeley. So there it is. You just click it, hold it, and drag it to Mendeley. And then it will appear here as well. Right. But I did mention that you can also attach a PDF to a source. So let's do that now. So we've gone, oh, now it's not found the page. Let's try this one. Let's see the view the full text. Let's go to Sovereign African Journals again. Come now. So those are the type of issues that we do encounter. And yes, that's a perfect opportunity. Don't assume that because you get this, it means it's not available. It means there's an error on our side. So please contact your faculty librarian if you encounter something like this. I mean, now the long way around, and unfortunately, because time's not allowing for that, I'm not going to do it now, but there is a way to find it and to sort these type of issues out. Okay, so let's try. Oh, wait, we can actually mark this link as broken. But that's going to take time as well, so that's me being a scatterbrain, excuse me. Let's rather go to EBSCOhost and see if we can retrieve the article from there. In the meantime, come now. It chose the beautiful ones. That's not what we were looking for. So this could actually still be the same source. It just looks a bit different here. Let's quickly open the PDF to see if it is in line with what I'm suspecting is that it might be a review article of a publication. Yes. So what we have here is a review article of the book titled In a Time of Plague, Memories of the Spanish Flu Epidemic. So these are all little things, yes, just to keep in mind whenever you are finding and searching through material, because these are things that will even be confusing to experienced librarians at times. Right, but we did find the article. This is what we were looking for. It's not exactly what we had in mind necessarily, but it might still be relevant to the study, so I'm going to save it nonetheless. So let's download this PDF. I'm going to save it. Under Documents, I'm going to create a new folder. And I'm going to call it Watch folder. Sorry for the slow computer again. And I'm just going to change the title to In a Time of Plague. And I'm going to save. Now back to Mendeley. There we have the source or the reference. And once you've clicked here, on the right-hand side, you're going to find the necessary information. And here at the bottom, there's an Add File option. I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to go to Documents, Watch folder, and I'm going to type in it, or I'm going to select In a Time of Plague. Right, and then you're going to get that little icon to the left, say that will indicate this source has a PDF attached to it. So now you can open it. And here you have it. So this is very convenient in the sense that you now don't have to jump from the one program like Acrobat to the next. Now, what's also nice is that we have some basic annotating features available in Mendeley. So you can make a little post-it note, say, for instance, you can say book review, just to know that this is what it's about. You can highlight certain sections. And I suspect this one won't allow it because this is not an OCR version, meaning that it's not recognizing the text. It looks more like it's just an image. And that is where Mendeley is a bit limited. So let's rather go back to another one, which might have a better PDF version. Yes, so this one will definitely work. So here you can highlight, oh, now I highlighted everything. Yeah, you can highlight, you can add a note, you can pan, you can select a section. There's some different colors as well. Let's add a note there, say useful for lit review. Right, but because it is somewhat limited in what it can do, you might want to, after you've gone through it here, you might want to work further with it in Acrobat Pro, where you can do additional annotations and much more. Then what you can do is you can also say, let's say file, let's go back to the library, you select the one you've got there, and then here you right click on the source, and then you see there's an option, export PDFs with annotations. So in that way, that's going to allow you to then export the PDF with the annotations that you made in Mendeley. I'm not going to do it now because I know that's going to slow down my computer. All right, so that's the one way of getting PDFs into, attaching PDFs. Now the next step that I want to take, and that's what I want to show you what the watch folder is. So let's go back and select a different source, and we're going to use different database as well. Let's go to Science Direct. What's very nice about Science Direct is it's an Elsevier product, and Mendeley is an Elsevier product, so the integration is really great. Now, once find articles, why can't I interact at all? There we go. Let's type in third way risk developing countries. It's a very vague search. Most librarians will tell you, yeah, in the training will say that's a very vague search and you'll have to be a bit more specific. But now I'm just looking for a random result. And here we do have quite a couple of results. So the next step of exporting articles, or the next method that you can use, and that works very well with Science Direct and some other databases as well, is this little Mendeley web importer. So I'm going to click there. And here it's going to say it's detected 25 references on the page. It's detected the PDFs of those references. And if you want, you can select all of them, or you can select the ones that you find most relevant. And you can even select the folder in which you want to go and save it. So let's say this is now for the group sharing. I'm going to save it under Mendeley training. I'm going to say add. And then once it's added, again, it will not immediately appear here. And the reason for that is that the moment you do something with the Mendeley web importer, or even with the little Mendeley shortcuts on our Sun Search platform, is that this software interacts with your online profile of Mendeley. It doesn't automatically interact with the desktop version. So you can then just click on sync. And here you'll see they're starting to appear. It does take a while sometimes, depending on how many you decided to export from your search, and that can take sometimes a bit longer. You'll also note that the PDF, it indicates that it's available, but it doesn't automatically download it. You can choose to download it as well. Right, so now it did download it, so that one at least is available. But for whatever reason, let's say on that day the web importer is broken, or for whatever other reason, you can also select export as an individual source, and you can say export citation to RIS. And you'll always get the RIS feature, as I mentioned earlier. Then that's why we specifically focus on the RIS file and its usefulness. Ooh, why did I type way? I should have said third wave. Excuse me. Now I'm just going to download a couple of random PDFs. I just want to see, did somebody request control perhaps? Maybe not. Okay. So I'm just going to save them, and I'm going to save them all in my watch folder. For saving time, I'm not going to change the title of each of these. And then going back to Mendeley, let's say add, let's click on the watch folder again. I'm going to minimize, I want to go to documents. Documents, watch folder. I'm going to tag it, I'm going to apply, and I'm going to say okay. And here they are popping up. The PDF is attached because it's reviewing the watch folder. Ah, there we go, and they show them. So yes, and the PDF articles that you will download from Science Direct and Scopus in general will have full annotated data, which will give you a very complete list as it appears here. This reference, as you can see, is almost good to go, except maybe the page numbers. Even there, have a look. That doesn't make sense at all. 101.468 doesn't make sense. And that, again, is something that you'll need to go and double check with the source. Let's go back. Where was the one that I selected now? But was it violence? Let's just get the title. I went away too quickly now. Vulnerability assessment of urban expansion. All right. So now, no additional information available here, and I actually forgot we could just check the PDF.
Kirchner?
Hi, Ingrid.
Hi, may I just interrupt for a moment here? There's two questions here that I thought maybe if you can just address that. The one is to do with the watch folder and the subfolders. The question is, does the watch folder also watches the subfolders? That's correct.
Yes, if you tick them. Yeah, so basically what you can do is if you go, let's go back to the watch folder. So configure documents, specifically tap that one. So if you create a new folder within your watch folder and you tag that one, tap that one as well, then it will watch those too.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, and the other question?
And the other question has got to do with the bibliography, so I think we can leave that till we get there.
Yes, I think I know what the problem is there. It's to do with whether your reference list is justified or left aligned. That's usually what causes the spacing problem. But I'll demonstrate that.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
All right. So, yes, I'm not sure why my synchronizing is continuing like this, like crazy now. I'm going to cancel it. Right, so we did do the watch folder now, and we've exported a couple of sources. But let's use, I'm going to go to EBSCOhost now and export from there. But in the meantime, please in the chat indicate what a few other databases you want me to look at and on how to export from there. I doubt that I'll be able to look at all of them, but if you really do struggle with a specific one, again, please email me afterwards and we can look at how to do it. Right. Actually, before I go to EBSCOhost, I'm going to go to Scholar quickly. Ooh, and I need to spell it correctly. Yeah, I'm going to actually use that information literacy. An aside feature that, while I have your attention, that I want to tell you about is that if you are working from home and you're not getting these little notifications on Google Scholar saying that the full text is available at Stellenbosch, then the way for you to link your Google Scholar account to the Stellenbosch University is at the top left. These three buttons there, or three little stripes. If you go to settings at the bottom and you click on library links and you look up Stellenbosch. Then, because mine is already ticked and showing, that it already appears there. But let's say, for instance, Northwest University. And then, yeah, there is the full text at NWU. That's the Northwest University's link as well. Now, it's fine and dandy. You can even say University of Harvard. And it will then show that available. But the problem is that if that happens, it's going to eventually, the moment you try to access the article, you're going to be prompted to log in. So that's not going to be very helpful. But because you're students at Stellenbosch, by doing that, you will be able to log in through our validation system and then access the articles that are available. So let me just go back to the search results.
Kirchner is me again. Maybe would you be able to maybe just expand your screen a little bit when it is possible, because some of the presenters say it is a bit faint to see on this screen. I know in Mendeley you can't do that, but maybe in Okay.
Let's see if the settings is also. Oh yes. Okay, so
I'm sure that's much better. Thanks.
Ingrid, will you check with them if I need to go over the steps of linking the library, or do you think that's covered? Let's see. Doesn't look like it, so I'm going to carry on. So even in Google Scholar, you can use the Mendeley exporter. If it detects it, but it doesn't seem to be detecting anything right now. But the other option that you, oh, there we go, it does appear. So yes, but you're going to see, for instance, it's not in the same order, and I don't think all the results are necessarily going to be included. But this is a feature. It does make it a bit handy, but this is an instance where you will have to go and double check that the citation or the references details are accurate. Check it and check it and check it again. But the other step, let's say, again, the web importer is not working. What you can also do is you can click on this little cite button. And here at the bottom, this is the one instance where you're not going to get the RIS. You're going to get what is called here a BibTeX. And if you click on that, you're going to get this little note, this little bit of information. Now, to import this into Mendeley, you're going to highlight this all the text there, and you're going to right click and copy, or you're just going to Control C. And then you need to create a text file. So now just want to get my computer to get a bit more responsive. So you're going to, in your search tab on Windows, you can search for Notepad. And I don't think you were able to see that bit now. It was off screen that I did on my second screen. But this is what the Notepad looks like. And then you just paste what you have that you copied, and you save as. And just for a test, I'm going to save this in the watch folder. And let's go back. And synchronize. Yeah, it does not look like it added it in this instance. So I think the watch folder only works with PDFs and not necessarily, and probably RIS folders, but not a text file. But the other way to add it then is you click on Add Files. Okay, and luckily it's already there. I'm just going to select Google Scholar Source. And there it appears at the top. Righto. Let's go to the database. Well, let's see what databases are suggested.
No, none specifically has been suggested by the participants, yes.
All right, no problem. Then I will just, I think I'll do Scopus and EBSCOhost. Actually, not even Scopus, because Scopus is also an Elsevier product, so it likely will work the same.
Maybe Web of Science.
Oh, I see IEEE was suggested now. Let's continue with EBSCOhost in the meantime, but I will have a look at IEEE and Web of Science as well. Let's say United States and China and relations. And I'm going to put United States in quotation marks so that it looks for the exact phrase and not the two words separately. All right, and we've got quite a couple of results here. And just to point out that even on EBSCOhost, you should get the Mendeley results here. And that would be a way to export that to the library. And even the PDFs are attached in some cases. But if you go into if you just want to export a specific source, here on the right, you'll see the option cite or export, and you can just click on export. And you'll see there's a couple of options here. And direct export in RIS format is selected as the automatic choice. So you can just say save. And again, either you can save it or you can open it directly with Mendeley. And there it is. Right, so yes, everywhere on any database that you go, just look for the export feature or the cite feature. The cite feature also oftentimes has the link option, but not in this case. This was, oh yeah, there we go, export to bibliographic management software. So between one of those two words that will appear on any database, you should be able to access it. Right, so IEEE. Let's see, machine learning. And what do you call it? Okay, so now we have the results that I looked for. Again, you can check, double check with IEEE, and here you'll see for the first time we've got a database that does not work with the web importer. The only result that it shows is the actual website. So in this instance, the web importer is not going to work. So then you're either going to select, and because I don't frequently work with IEEE, I'm not even sure if this is going to work. Yes, okay. So I've selected 4, and there is an export feature. You can export them as a CSV, but we want the RIS. Citation only. I recommend citation and abstract so that you do have the abstract of the articles that you're exporting. And click open with Mendeley Desktop. And here they appear. And Yes, the information is quite comprehensive. We've got it as set. This is a conference proceeding. We've got it set as conference proceedings. But here, for instance, is a problem on that it's not sentence case. So it should be lowercase m, lowercase l, lowercase I, for instance, and so on. Those are changes that you will still have to make. It's also important to note that a lot of journals these days come up don't necessarily have an issue. And how do you say, most styles, referencing styles these days also don't have it as an absolute requirement that an issue needs to be included. So you could just double check on that. And now I just want to, I'm having a bit of trouble with my Mendeley that I can't even enlarge it, view it. Interesting. But I'll sort that out now. Let me just quickly close it and restart it. Right, so on IEEE, you'll see there right at the start, there's a Cite This button. Click on that. You can either copy it, which is never advised, just copy it and paste it in your reference list, but you don't want to do that. Or you can take the BibTeX or the RIS and download it and open it with Mendeley Desktop. All right, and then quickly I'm going to show Scopus, and then we need to move on to using Mendeley in Word. Not Scopus, Web of Science, excuse me. Okay. Right, so let's look. Let's see. Symbolism. Oh, I'm not sure if I even spelled that correct now. In J. Yeah. Disgrace. Let's search. Because symbolism is also, oh man. Let's take that out. I think that might be, and for some other reason, I do know how to spell, but Ingrid, maybe just double check me because my brain is a bit fried. Is symbolism spelled correctly there, or is it with a Y? I'm just going to Google it quickly. Yes. Okay, so this is apparently social sciences abstracts, but I suppose that's not something that will probably be more prevalent in JSTOR. Let's try something else. Educational psychology. All right, let's test the Mendeley web importer. And yes, it's loaded. Those that has PDFs can be exported. Again, You can select all on the page. You can click on export. And now we need to see other file formats. Let's try other file formats. And yes, let's see, all records on page, author title, source, abstract, and let's say export. And let's see what happens, because yeah, it's a text, but it should work. Nope. Let's try BibTeX, as we saw that did work earlier. And there they've all been imported now. Okay. So again, as you can see, because here there's a lot of variation in how the titles are written. This one is all in capital letters. This one is sentence case. This one is title case. This is always something to check, as I mentioned. Right. Okay, so on to MS Word and using it there. I just started MS Word. I don't want to start in safe mode. While I'm waiting, are there any questions from anybody? You're welcome to unmute yourself now if you have a quick question that you want to ask.
Kirchner, other than that, it's only the question of the the bibliography. But like you say, they're justified, and you're going to demonstrate that.
Yes.
So I always think it's good if you can demonstrate it as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so Word is giving me some problems, and this is going to be problematic if it doesn't want to work. There we go.
It seems to be just a bit slow, Kirchner.
Yes, I just have Windows decided to send through a couple of updates this week, and it's really slowed down my computer. Yeah. So the timing's just a bit bad.
But right. That's not too bad in any case. Then we can just just take a breather and just focus again.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, but it has loaded now. So now the plugin that we installed earlier will appear here under the References tab. Here you'll see this Mendeley Citamatic. You've got the option to insert a citation. You can undo, refresh. The other features I'll get to when I get to them. But here you can also select the style you're working on. So for instance, here I'm going to select American Psychological 6. Oh, come now. That's also going to be a problem. Ah, there we go. It's working. Okay. Right. So to insert a citation from Mendeley, you're going to click here, Insert Citation. Oh no, I pressed the wrong button, excuse me. And let's see, I'm just going to type in K. Unfortunately, you do kind of need to know the author's name. That's the one thing that's, yeah, that's my one criticism of Mendeley at this stage, or the Mendeley desktop, and which is what they're trying to rectify with their newer software packages. It's just that, as I mentioned, those are still in beta and they are not, don't always work 100%. So let's take that one. Let's add, what we get here. Let's add that one. So you can add just one reference and then say OK, or you can add multiple depending on the nature of the citation that you are making. Let's see, let's just add that one. So for interest's sake, if at this point you already want to add page numbers, you can just click on the relevant reference. And there you'll see there's a page, there's other options that you can select. So here we can say 11 to 12. Let's say Turner is just page 15 and Lee is 349. Take note of the suppress author option, but I'll get to that now. And then you can just say OK. And here you have it. So the first thing you might notice is that Mendeley automatically arranged the citations chronologically. And that boils down to the type of style you're using and the type of setting that's been selected. If it doesn't do it like that, unfortunately, you will have to probably manually copy and change as needed. Now, just for interest's sake, you'll see here, we've got the 3 authors there. Now, if I switch from 6th edition to 7th edition, all of a sudden it's Turner et al. So make a note, be aware of that, because a lot of your supervisors are going to make a comment on that because they are used to the standard that the first time somebody is multiple authors are referenced, they all have to be written out. But this is changing now. APA 7, Harvard has done away with it a while ago, that et al. Can be used from the get-go. But if it is a preference of your supervisor, then you will just have to point out that there is going to be a conflict using Mendeley if you're using 7th edition.
Kirchner,
Ingrid?
would you be possible to just zoom in a little bit again?
Yes.
Thanks.
Sorry.
No problem. Thanks.
Right. And we also will have University of Cape Town, Harvard, Stellenbosch. Let's see, more styles. I'm going to use this one. Done. And this is what the University of Cape Town, Harvard style looks like. But let's say you want to say, according to Maria. And this is where you will then go again, insert citation, look up Maria. Let's use a different one from him. Let's use this one. And if I paste it, that's not going to work. So to edit this, click on the reference that you want to edit, and you'll see where insert citation always appears. There's now edit citation. Click on it, select the citation, and then say suppress author. And put in a page number if it was a direct quotation that you are citing. Say OK, and it automatically adjusts it to that. Now, there has been cases where this doesn't necessarily work. So there is another way to do it as well. I'm undoing the change I made there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually remove Maria. and I'm going to put in the page number, and I'm going to click outside of the reference. And then this little menu comes up. I can't zoom in there, but it basically says keep citation edit, and then it just basically indicates that this citation has been edited manually. Now, then what you just need to do is you need to keep the manual edit. This is just a way for Mendeley to make sure that you didn't accidentally make a typo in one of their fields. And we just say keep manual edit, and it will stay that way. And then you can go on and say research is important or whatever. Right. So the next option, I just want to make sure that I've covered everything here, is to insert a bibliography, which is usually done on a next page. And let's just say references. And here I'm going to say insert bibliography. And Mendeley automatically generates it. Now we can discuss the spacing problem that you have. And the problem with Mendeley is, and especially the reference list, is I can now say, let's go home, and the reason it generates those kind of spacing problems is that it's automatically set to justify, and you want your reference list to be left aligned. And this is always the case. You always want it to be left aligned, because otherwise those spacing problems are going to be an issue. Now we can look at some other issues. Is everything up to order? Second edition. Oh dear. There's the third edition. Remember, I mentioned that earlier as well. There also, it says Van Skyke Publishers and not Van Skyke. So there's no general rule, but or a fixed rule. But in general, words like publishers or incorporated or things like that can be left out. Sage doesn't have to be written in capital letters, for instance. What's the other one? So publishers can be left out. We don't want that second ed there. We just want third ed like that. But now look what happens when I click on references and I click on refresh. Everything goes back to how it originally was. And that, unfortunately, is another feature of Mendeley that's Mendeley Desktop that is quite a pain. So any changes you want to make, apart from the left alignment, you have to go and make in the reference itself. Maria Call, let's just quickly look for it. This is the one I'm looking for. So we said first steps in research. We don't want publishers there. We just want Van Skyke. And we want to take that ed out because ed automatically appears. So it's done. It's been saved. Let's just double check. Yes, the changes have been made. We can clear. And now if I click refresh, it's accepted those changes. So the problem with the alignment will only be able to be fixed once you are really completely finished with your thesis and you're ready to submit. Because the last step you will do, once you are satisfied that your references are accurate and that all the citations in your text appear in your reference list and vice versa, that is when you take the next step. You say export as, and you export the document without Mendeley fields. Now, it's going to save the original document with the Mendeley fields in it, but it's also going to generate one where those fields are completely disabled. Let's just say this. I'm just going to save it on my desktop for now. I'm going to save this one there as well. Right. So this one, I think, is still active, but the other one that was just created, let's see. Oh, it didn't open it, which is weird. Here, come now. Yes, and this one will have it disabled. So even if I click on my sources here, even if I change the style, nothing is going to be changed now. But the benefit here is whatever changes I make to my reference list will remain now. So now it will permanently remain left aligned. Right, so that's it in a nutshell. Are there any questions about how to use Mendeley in Word? Okay, so the justification is basically, it's just here under the paragraph section. Let's zoom in again. And it's these little fields here. Most of your documents, your thesis is mostly going to be justified. So where the body of your text is going to be, it's going to be justified. And basically the only section of your entire thesis that must be left aligned will be your reference list. So here the spacing isn't that bad, even if you make it justified, but let me just go up a bit. The example that Mr. Amanful showed in his image, I mean, there is some crazy spacing between. Let me see if I can share it.
Sorry, would you please come again on editing references, like the ones that you have actually been doing just now?
All right.
I want to understand how you moved from here, because you are editing, like deleting some space like publisher was deleted, and then you went to Mendel to kind of accept the editing.
Oh no, basically I went to make the changes so that they are permanent in the reference list. I had to go and make those changes in Mendeley itself. So you have to go to the specific field that is faulty or the specific article. Let's try another one here. I'm just going to close this one. So just to emphasize again, mistakes, errors in your citations, like here, if you don't want the authors to appear in this reference list, for instance, but just the years of publication, that is something that you can change in Mendeley, and it will accept the manual edits if you prompt it to. But any changes you make in the reference list, if you left align it, or I, for instance, put the error back in, like that ed again, the moment I click on refresh here, it's going to remove all those changes I made in the reference list, but not in the citations in the text. Now, the changes in Mendeley itself is, let's take another one, for instance. Let's look for one that appears to be faulty. Here we go. So here, to edit any of these fields, you just click on them and you change them then. Here I want to make the sentence to be sentence case. There's also different opinions about mixed methods. about whether the first word after a colon should be capitalized or not. There's no fixed rule, just be consistent again. So if you are going to capitalize the first word after the colon or basically the first word in a subheading, then just do it throughout. And if you're not going to do it, also don't do it throughout. So, but the thing is to take note of any changes that I make here in this document or in these fields will be applied to the references in the reference list. Even if you've already pulled them in and you update, they will those changes will appear then. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. Yes, it does.
Okay,
Thank you.
great.
Yeah.
Yes, I see here a question about why doesn't the DOI appear in the bibliography. There is actually, this one is the DOI. So this article does have it. This one, there's the DOI as well. It's just the two books that don't have a DOI. Ebooks, some electronic books do have DOIs, but you are not required to include a DOI for them. It's generally only academic articles that requires a digital object identifier.
And then also, Kirchner, if the DOI isn't there, it could be that it's not part of the reference detail.
Yes.
And you can look it up. Then you can look it up in the individual, in the reference.
Let's see. This is let's see quickly. This is a journal article. Let's see what happens if I click on search here at the top. I don't know if you would have noticed there was no DOI, but just by clicking on that search, it automatically added the DOI.
Yes, thanks.
But yes, that will be the other reason why it doesn't appear. Now, just to think, I saw a question on using Mendeley with LaTeX and other web. Where is your message? And web editors. I'm going to be really honest and say that I am not too familiar with how they are integrated and how they work together. But we could make an appointment and I can go and do a bit of homework and see if I can teach you anything on that. But yes, Mr. McCann, you are, again, welcome to email me and we can discuss that at a later stage. I did say that I'm going to show you Mendeley's site as well, but I want to show something. When you click on Get Mendeley's site, as you can see, currently it has 1.5 rating out of 5, and that's from basically 600 ratings. So yes, it's not ideal at the moment, but this is the best option if your supervisor, for instance, insists that you work on Word online. Yes. So because it also conflicts with the Mendeley desktop application. So that's also why I don't have both installed at the same time, because it often just creates a headache. The Mendeley Reference Manager is just an updated, a bit more, a newer version, but it's still beta as well, and that's also why we do not touch on, don't really discuss it at the moment. But you're welcome to go and read up on it a bit, try it out yourself, and if it works for you, you're more than welcome to contact me if you have any questions, because I'm in the process of getting to know these applications myself as well. But yes, that's it in a nutshell. I think I've covered everything. There's still about 10 minutes left for any questions that anybody might have.
Yeah, sorry, I'll take you back, but there was a time you were talking about adding or exporting document to Mendel using a link, and you are saying that, oh, for the first time this link has worked after some time. I don't know if you can just briefly recap on that link, and if maybe that link is accessible to us, or maybe it's just one of the various ways that probably doesn't critically matter maybe.
Yes, it's basically just in our Sun Search platform. There is an option to directly export to Mendeley that for the most recent, yes, like I said, for the past couple of months, just did not want to work. But I suppose it was some or other technical glitch, and I was just surprised that it's now working. It is very handy. Let's find a book. I'm going to research methods in education. Important to note with this search platform is that it will always give, so there's an article that's a review of the book, Research Methods in Education, possibly. But here's the book that's in question that I was looking for. I'm going to select it. And here, this little Mendeley icon, this is the one that I was talking about. And then it's first going to ask you your account, the relevant account. You say proceed, and it will say exporting to Mendeley. Yes, and now that it works really well. Let's see, it's again something that it exported it to your online library, your cloud library. So you're first going to have to find that source now in your desktop. You first have to click on sync again. And while it's doing that, I see I have a question here again. Yes, that in general is unfortunately an issue. That you will probably have to manually change them. From what I've been able to discern, there's no way to change the settings in using Mendeley here as well. If it's alphabetic or chronological, let's see. But all those all the manual changes that I made now makes all the changes a bit. Let's insert a few. Let's say K. And let's add them. And if you have noticed, no man, the moment that I added this extra reference here, it already updated to the reference list. And here you can see the spacing problem that happens by because it automatically justifies. So if your supervisor comments on it, just mention to them that it will be fixed prior to the final submission. It is just because of the technical issue right now with Mendeley. Okay, so the other thing I need to highlight is that here it actually includes the initials of T.D. Turner. This is something that I get asked a lot about. So, and this is what I was talking about the author's issues. So let's quickly look for Turner. It's actually quite interesting that it now wants to distinguish between, let's see quickly. So there it picks it up as TD Turner. Let's see. I'm just going to assume for the sake here that I'm going to change it. So what happened there is there was a T Turner and a TD Turner. And the moment that I clicked on the authors, you'll see the moment you click on somebody. Sometimes if Mendeley is confused by the author, it will give some, it will drop down, there will appear a drop down here under last name, first names, making the changes. Let's see if we can find somebody else. Yes, let's make Maria. Let's look for Maria. Okay, so we're really closing. Okay, I've got a question on the DOI. Most articles these days, especially if you export them directly from a database, they will include the DOI. There are articles out there, especially older articles, that don't have a DOI. It does happen. And then you can either look for a permanent link. Sometimes JSOR, I know, uses permanent links often instead of a DOI. But the DOI should appear on the record somewhere. If you need additional guidance with that, Ms. van Wijngaard, you're welcome to contact me. So here, let's see. Call Maria, let's see. Now it's not happening what I wanted to happen, unfortunately. But yes, if there's any confusion with the authors, there would be a drop-down saying maybe this and this person are the same people. The reason the initials appeared here is because that is Mendeley's way, and it's actually the APA way of distinguishing between two authors with the same surname who might have published in the same year. I'm going to refresh now. And it's actually still showing that. That's quite interesting. So yes, this is an error that requires further investigation. There's no time for it now. But as you can see, it's not in chronological order, unfortunately. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is basically to manually change the citation. I am going to investigate a bit further, and what I intend to do with the style that I'm going to create for Stellenbosch is I want to put that in a setting as a standard setting because it is generally the preferred option. And yes, we'll see from there. But yes, I think that concludes the session. I am at work till 4:30, so you're welcome to email me still with any other questions or anything that you feel weren't covered properly. But for now, I think we can conclude.
Okay, and thank you. I just want to thank you, Kirchner, for this very informative session, and I'm sure our participants are taking a lot from this. And yeah, thank you that they also can contact you, Saul, after the session. And yeah, and thanks to all of you, all of our participants for attending. And we hope to see you tomorrow again or soon in the library. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you, everybody, and see you at any of the next or at one of the next sessions.
Bye, everyone.